And then I wound up thinking about my dream as I was deciding whether I should go back home or not. Lincoln smiled a bit. Turns out the drawing is a good way to help me think things through with my dream being sketched out. And thinking over everything that I read on your phone, I decided I should go back home right as you opened the door. So you're not mad about us working with your sisters? Clyde asked. Nah, Lincoln waved his hand dismissively. I mean, I get it. You guys wanted to make sure I did okay while I was in school, and if you had a better option, then you would have taken it. Clyde started to smile, though he dropped it as he awaited the bad news. I was upset that you guys hid this from me for so long, but then, I figured, Clyde interrupted, avoiding the chance to look at Lincoln in the eye. But we thought you may think we are setting you up to get caught in your sisters and that you never trust us again. That's what I was getting at, Clyde. You guys risk our friendship just to keep us safe. Lincoln gestured himself before sulking to his shoulders. All I did was act as a human-sized bag for everyone to drag around. Clyde then raised an eyebrow. Lincoln, no one said you were. I know, but I read the group chat you guys had recently. The Loud folded his arms. You can't tell me you're at least tired of seeing me hiding and being scared. Clyde didn't want to deny it what Lincoln said, as he had lied to already though. But he didn't want to admit the truth either, as it might come off as an insult. That's why I need to go back home. The Loud then placed a hand on Lincoln's shoulder. I can't thank you guys enough for what you did, and I can't have you guys fix all my problems at the time. He turned to his mirror, staring up at his reflection. I don't know what's going to happen when I go back, and I still don't trust most of my sisters. Even Lynn was telling the truth. He furrowed his brows a little. But I want to face my sisters with dignity. Lincoln then glanced to his side. Even though I might need a little nightlight for a while. Clyde snorted a little. I don't think you'll need one if you keep up that attitude. He frowned slightly. Sorry about keeping all this a secret. Clyde, it's fine. I'm sorry for going through what your phone without asking. The nerdy kid raised a brow. Guess we could call it even then. Lincoln then shrugged. I will if you do, extending an open palm with a smile. Still bros? Clyde then returned the smile and clasped his hands with Lincoln's. Still bros. Then, when the two hugged for a few seconds before letting go. Besides, if I get angry at you guys, I end up losing the old friends I have, and that's something I definitely don't want to happen, Lincoln stated as he stared walking into the hallway. Oh, come on, Clyde laughed a little as he lightly jabbed on the Loud's arm. You know we still have your back no matter what, right? Mm-hmm, Lincoln hummed wistfully. Clyde had started to frown. Lincoln? Just pulling your leg. The white-haired boy spoke through the knuckles. Ha, so you want to finish up dinner or... Clyde then stopped, hearing Lincoln's stomach gurgling. Are you gonna puke again? Actually, I feel really hungry now. Lincoln then patted his stomach before glancing at Clyde. Think there's still some roast left? I'm sure there's plenty. Perfect, Lincoln cheered, before bolting towards the kitchen. Wait, Clyde yelled after him. Make sure you leave room for dessert. My dad's making sundaes tonight. Lincoln gave a slight yawn as he watched as the houses sped through the window of the Sea of the McBride's van. The last 10 hours had been a blur to him. The Loud forgot the exact time he went to bed. He only assumed that it was around 10:30, and even then he lied his head on the cold pillow at night. Sleep didn't claim him for the next hour or so it would have been an extra energy from eating that Sunday so late. Mom and Dad usually cut off sweets before 9, or at least that settled in his brain, and the middle child was just a few hours from facing his sisters in person. Lincoln rubbed his eyes as he shook his head. Regardless of what it was, he hated seeing the fact that it lowered the amounts of hours he normally spent sleeping on Sunday. So, are you excited to be heading home, Lincoln? Harold asked, taking a moment to look at the Loud through the rearview mirror. Yeah, I'm so thrilled, came Lincoln's sarcastic remark. It shouldn't be that bad. If you're still worried about your sisters, I'm sure your parents already took extra precautions, the older man replied. Probably. If Mr. McBride said anything after that, Lincoln usually didn't pay that much of attention. In spite of the abouts and courage that he could muster, doubt was there to keep late on it. He sort of wished Clyde was there. Unfortunately, Nip Petruni had somehow gone into the vents again, forcing the 11-year-old and Howard to search for that thing in the Dane system to get her out. As the van turned a corner, Lincoln caught a sight of the street name, which one said Franklin Avenue. His breathing hitched a little, but otherwise remained even. Just keep it together, Lincoln. Don't freak out about and don't think of them. The boy mentally coached himself, although he carefully took note of the address numbers of each house as they passed. 1208. Getting close, Lincoln noted, as he breathed exhausting through his nose. Only a few seconds later, the van started to slow. Lincoln caught a sight of Mr. Grouse's aboard, with the proprietor attending to his garden like usual. The 11-year-old noticed that there were a few plants that he hadn't seen before. Or was he just assuming? It has been 2 months, so it was a toss-up to him. One slight glance to the left, though, Lincoln spotted his real home and in its glory. He shook a little as his eyes darted off to each of the windows, hoping none of his siblings peeking through the curtains. Looking up towards the circular window that symbolizes his room, Lincoln was a little satisfied once it appeared that no one was hiding there. Once he took his focus off the windows, did Lincoln finally spoke the changes to the outside? For one, Vanzilla wasn't in the driveway, and that it didn't sit well with him, since there was multiple drivers in the family. Did one of his parents take it? Or both? Or did Lori take their sisters to someplace? On that note, Lincoln finally scanned the yard. He noticed the toys that were usually littered around the area, as well as the roof, whatever happened to get stuck in the tree, were missing. Looks like someone has finally cleaned it all up, he muttered to himself. Well, here we are, Harold said, as he parked the van by a nearby curb. Thanks, Mr. McBride, really, Lincoln replied as he opened the door. He hefted his backpack on before pulling out the medium-sized suitcase that contained all of his things his parents brought over with them over the weeks. Harold was about to respond back when his phone started to ring. He picked it up, and put it to his ear. Hello? Dad? Clyde answered on the line. Can you come home real quick? Dad is stuck in the vents and Nip Petruni is being feisty. A manly scream rang out through the phone's speakers, followed by loud cat hisses. Oh dear, Harold brought it to his cheek in fear. I'll be there in a jiffy. Setting the phone down, he's on the center console. Sorry, Lincoln, but I gotta go. Lincoln closed the door before stepping back a few feet. The tires of the van squealed before Lincoln watched Harold make a U-turn quickly of the middle of the street. Hope things go well at home, the African-American called out as the van disappeared around the corner. The lad redirected his attention back to the old house, not budging an inch since he stared at the windows again. Lincoln bit his lip as he felt his legs locking up, gripping a strap on his backpack firmly as he looked around the yard. Hey, Loud! Lincoln flinched before looking towards Mr. Grouse. You gonna stand there all day, or are you gonna head inside? Lincoln's left eye twitched as the rush of heat erupted from his chest. He didn't know why he was angry. Perhaps it was because he wanted it as quiet as possible, but having Mr. Bride take off and how Mr. Grouse was yelling at, given the fact that he was right at the front door, before he could stop himself. Can you just mind your own business? The old man just gave a shrug before returning to his petunias. Lincoln looked up at the house again, drawing a deep breath. Okay, just gonna walk up to the front door and... He bit his cheek. I just hope Mom and Dad are still home. The 11-year-old picked up the suitcase. Okay, let's do this. Taking a deep breath, Lincoln marched with determination towards the door. However, the boy felt his anxiety creeping up again as he drew closer to the front porch. This became very apparent as Lincoln shivered upon climbing up the first few steps. Looking towards the windows, the curtains had remained still. Taking another step towards the front door, Lincoln curled his fingers and raised a hand towards the door. At that moment, though, he finally took notice of the doorbell. Looking between the frame and the small device, and whatever is being blown over anyways, Lincoln figured using the doorbell wouldn't make things any worse, although there was still this unsettled feeling that he was getting after something as Lincoln pressed the button. The realization came as a shock. Literally, Lincoln yelped when the electric current ran through his finger and his body, forcing him to quickly remove the button and stick his finger in his mouth. As a bell chimed through the house, no sooner did the bell had rung that sound, Lincoln heard the sound of barking coming from somewhere in the door's right. The middle child heard the heavy footsteps approaching the door, making his blood chill a bit, as he didn't know who it was. Is that Mom or Dad or one of my older sisters? I know my younger ones wouldn't make heavy sounds like that. Lincoln thought to himself as the steps drew closer. I'm really starting to not like who's who, was his final thought as his steps were stopped at the other side of the door. The boy tried to steel his nerves, but he was unprepared when it swung open before he was fully ready. Hey, sport! Lynn Sr. greeted with a smile, looking down to hug his son. Lincoln felt the chill in his blood warm as his father embraced him, which he returned after a few seconds. Hey, Dad! Barking became louder as the source approached the two, and right as Lynn Sr. let go of his son, Lincoln felt something attempting to climb his pants leg. Looking down, a smile overtook the boys as his face saw Charles barking happily, while rope hopping around the spot. The pup wagging his tail excessively to show his excitement. Hey, buddy! Lincoln spoke as he kneeled down to pet the pit bull terrier. The pup barked happily as he leaned into Lincoln's hands, then jumped into his knees and started haphazardly licking his face. Aw, I miss you too. Lincoln laughed a little as he continued stroking the dog's fur. The partridge couldn't help but smile at the scene, only the eye of the suitcase sitting between the doorway. Feeling that Lincoln would take that moment to be reacquainted with the house, Lynn Sr. ruffled his son's hair for a moment before grabbing the medium-sized bag and started walking up the stairs with it. Lincoln could always unpack his stuff later. A high-pitched infantile noise cut in through the air, and to Lincoln's left, it made him lift Charles away from his face to get a better look. Just beyond the couch, the middle child saw his littlest sister waddle out from behind the furniture, a toy airplane in hand, as she made cute little sounds as she pretended it was flying. Naturally, Lily was still dressed in her diaper. Surprisingly, she had a small purple shirt on with a yellow flower in the center. Lily? Lincoln called out, grabbing the one-year-old's attention. As soon as Lily focused on her brother, she dropped her toy while letting out a happy squeal. Lincoln! She cried out, bolting towards her brother as best she could. Lincoln, Lincoln, Lincoln! The middle child was completely taken by the surprise that Lily spoke his name so clearly, even more so when she didn't trip over herself as she ran with her arms stretched outwards to him. Seconds later, Lincoln found himself being knocked off balance when the infant pushed against his stomach. Falling onto his back, Lincoln felt some weight on his stomach before his vision was filled by Lily's cheerful smile and Charles' happy painting face. The 11-year-old smiled in return, his anxiety and fears being pushed into the furthest stretches of his mind. Seeing how happy that his little sister was, how much he would have missed, Lincoln felt that he could always worry about his older sisters later. Guess coming back wasn't such a bad idea, Lincoln spoke more to himself. So as Lily wrapped her arms around his neck in a soft hug, he returned the affection by kissing the top of her head.